Thank you all for making the excellent decision to invest your time with me here today. I think you're all amazing, and I'm incredibly grateful for you to make that decision. To be asked to present at WPC is a great honour, and this year for me is no exception. As we prepare our content and think about the kind of things that we want to share with you, there's one thing we are focused on, and that is that you leave this room with something that you didn't have when you came into it. That for me is my objective, and that for me is the measure of success. So if every single person walks out of here today with one thing that they've learned as a result of being here, then I will have achieved my objective. So creating stories that bring home the bacon. What on earth does that mean? When we think about creating stories about our businesses, it's easy to get carried away on the detail. How do I make my story more interesting? Have I got a villain? Have I got a hero? Is there a plot? What's the journey that someone's going to go on? And of course, all of those things are absolutely important, and they will make your stories more interesting. But before we do that, we must stay focused on the reason we are telling business stories in the first place. And that is to make it count, to make someone listen to us, to remember us, and to make the stories bring home the bacon. And that's the subject that we're going to discuss today. I've been coming to WPC since 1999. Wow, that's quite a long time, isn't it? In fact, I got my 10-year pin this year. I think that's about the third one. And I was joking with someone that $3,000 for my cost of coming, so I got this little gold pin that's cost me $30,000. It's quite impressive. So I've been coming since 1999, but I attended a session just like this in 2002, and I was absolutely blown away by this gentleman. Some of you may recognise Mahan Khalsa, who was the founder of the incredible sales coaching agency Franklin Covey. Mahan delivered a session just like this that talked about how to listen, how to quieten your internal voice when someone else is talking to you. Because what we do, ladies and gentlemen, is we're thinking about what is it we want to say. Unless we're entertained, unless we're motivated, unless we're captivated by what that person is saying, we're often thinking about what we want to say next. So Mahan delivered a session and a technique about how to listen, and it's a technique that I use every single day and I have never forgotten. If I can give you a technique like that today, then I will have achieved the reason why I'm standing here, and I've spent so many nights walking up and down in my hotel room thinking about how on earth I'm going to give you some value today. So when we think about storytelling, listening is the very first point. You want to get someone to listen. So in the next 45 to 50 minutes, I'm going to do that not by delivering PowerPoint slides with bullets on it and directions to tell you to be a great storyteller, you must do this, you must do that, this is going to make a difference, this is how to do it. With the greatest will in the world and with all the experience I have of working with partners, I cannot make you incredible storytellers in 50 minutes. What I can do is express the enthusiasm and the energy through telling you stories and making my point as we go through the session. So I am going to share some insights. I am going to share some stories with you about my experience at WPC and how to make a point with the stories you're telling, how to make them count, how to make it bring home the bacon. And at the end, I'm going to bring it all together with a very simple methodology, so you will leave this room with a technique that you can apply if you want to be great storytellers. We've got some prize giveaways, so I am hoping for a little bit of audience participation. Woohoo! We all love that, don't we? Oh no, she's going to make me talk. We are going to do some prize giveaways, and I hope that you'll just join in the spirit of that and interact with me a little bit as we go through the session. So, do you recognise this gentleman? Richard Branson. Well, when Richard Branson speaks, I listen. Why is that? Richard Branson was born in England in 1950, and he set up his own business at the age of 17, selling magazines to students. He's gone on to find the Virgin Group, which is actually 400 companies. So this is a business expert, someone who I respect, someone who I listen to, and whose opinion I reflect on when I listen to what he says in the press and how he represents himself. He actually has got a net worth of $5.2 billion. Like, that's just beyond any of our wildest dreams, I'm sure, in terms of the wealth that he's accumulated. Richard was actually knighted in the year 2000, so he is Sir Richard Branson. And he presented at WPC in 2011. And again, it's a session I remember very well. He talked about, screw it, let's do it. What he was talking about is when he has a new business idea and he thinks about a new company, he gets all of his advisors together, he gets his operations people, he gets his finance people, he gets his sales and marketing people, and they talk about the viability of the business. And sometimes they say, you don't want to do that. And he says, screw it, let's do it. I can identify with that, and I think if I'd listened to all the people that told me I shouldn't start a business, I never would have done it. So when he speaks, I listen. But Richard isn't constantly an expert just by what he learns for himself. He learns from other people. People like Nelson Mandela, who he says he's influenced by. When Nelson Mandela died, Richard Branson said of one of the greatest people this world have ever seen, and someone he was honoured to call his friend. Richard says he learnt a lot from Nelson Mandela's book, The Long Walk to Freedom, and he took a lot of learning for that. And there's one other key thing that I've looked up on Richard Branson. He actually says that the reason for his success is about his people, the staff that work in his companies. So here I have a business expert who runs 400 companies, who's worth $5.2 billion, who says that he respects his staff and that's where his success comes from. So put your money where your mouth is. How do you prove that? That's what he says. Where does that come from? I'll tell you a story about Virgin. So British Airways and Virgin were locked in a bitter war. It was a court trial where Virgin had accused British Airways of planting defamatory remarks in the press, of trying to steal their customers, and generally trying to trash their business. They did go to court, and it went on for weeks and weeks and weeks. Eventually, Virgin were awarded damages. And what did Virgin do with that? Richard Branson actually distributed those damages amongst his staff. So someone who says, my success is down to my people, who does something like that, I believe him. I trust him. I trust this business expert. One more story, little giggle. BA were erecting a huge wheel outside the House of Commons. And Richard heard that they were having some issues at the erection site with getting the wheel up. So he flew a great big air balloon across the erection site with the words, BA can't get it up. Story, true story. So now I'm really beginning to believe in the personality. I'm beginning to believe in his sense of humour. I believe in the claims he's making about trusting his staff and how his people are the things that make him successful. Trust what he says. Hiring an expert says to your customers that you are best in class. So before we get carried away on the creativity of stories, you must express how you are expert. What is it that you do? What is it that you've done? What experience have you got that shows that you are expert? What makes an expert? Absolute dedication and focus on your task. Absolute coaching and feedback. Talking to your customers and asking them, how did I do? How was that buying experience for you? How could we improve? So that as you talk to new prospects and new customers, you can convey that clarity and explain to customers, we do it this way because our customers told us that's the way they would like to work with us. That is what is going to make a difference. That's how you start to prove expertise. That's kind of how you apply that learning and continue to develop. Because if we don't continue to learn and develop, and let's face it, we're working in the Microsoft Partner Channel, We have to continue to learn and develop. We have to continue to evolve. And the way to do that is to get feedback from our customers and our staff. How did I do? Sharing your own experiences, using anecdotal stories. Those are the things that people are going to listen to, the things that people are going to remember, and the things that will help your stories to bring home the bacon. The final thing on this section, where's your proof? So I told you, Richard Branson says he attributes his success to his staff, and there's the story, distributing the damages that he won from British Airways. Look it up. It's on the internet. It's a fact. He did it. So showcasing your expert in your presentations, on your website, in all of the meetings that you're having, where is the proof that you are expert? How do you express that? And how do you express that in a creative way? So, ladies and gentlemen, I ask you, how are you expert? What is it that you are expert at? And I sincerely hope that you are all thinking about this now as I'm talking to you. If someone stops you at WPC and asks you, how are you expert? You've maybe got 2 minutes, 1 minute. You need to express that expertise in a memorable way that captures someone's attention. You're probably going to collect 100 business cards this week. How are you going to remember who the individuals were? You'll remember the ones that express their passion and creativity and tell you about their expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you'll join in a little practice session with me. This could be the greatest and first networking opportunity you have at WPC. I absolutely guarantee in this room somewhere there are partners that you could be doing business with. Can I ask for a show of hands? How many people in this room have come to WPC to meet partners that they could do business with? We're here to do business with Microsoft and Microsoft partners. That's the reason we've come. That's the reason we've invested. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to stand. I'm going to ask you to turn to the person next to you and express how you are expert. Just a 2-minute conversation. I'm going to sound the horn after 2 minutes, and then I'd like you to swap over and listen to the other person say how they are expert. Are you ready to do that? Yes! Fantastic. How can you express proof? You've got 2 minutes to make an impression. What tangible evidence have you got? You've got an opportunity around you to meet a new partner. Please don't turn to the member of staff that you came with or your colleague, right? That's not the idea of the game. And maybe to someone behind you or someone to the other side if you're sat together in a group. Focus on the outcomes. What do you want that person to do, think, or say as a result of how you express yourself? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Hey, I'm all right, thanks. We're just doing a little exercise, how to express your expertise in 2 minutes.
Okay.
So I don't know if anybody's not talking or standing on their own that you could join, or you could time, I guess. Is that all right?
I'm excited to hear.
Oh, good, yeah, brilliant. swap? You swap over, please. 2 minutes. Swap over so the other person gets 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for taking that step with me. I absolutely, having been coming to WPC for an awful number of years, I do know that when someone says it's going to be interactive, it's the last thing you actually want to do. So I do understand that, and I do appreciate what you just did there, so thank you for that. Let's just go a little bit further with this, but before I do that, I'd like to ask, how was that? So what I'm looking for, and in my first prize, it's very exciting, what I'm looking for is not for someone to stand up and express how they're expert. What I'm looking for is a volunteer talk about who said they were expert to them and what they said. Who'd like to volunteer? Laura, to the microphone, please. Woohoo! Okay, Laura, what did you hear? The short version.
Sarah from Jabra works for a company called Jabra. Most people know Jabra for conferencing solutions. However, where they're differentiating now is they focus on work and play. So looking at enhancing somebody's experience in the office, if you're in an open plan environment and you want to focus on your specific piece of work, they have now noise cancelling headphones that means that you can focus on the task in hand as well as just the original traditional conferencing facilities, and how it integrates in your personal life when you're running and you're exercising. They have specific technology that helps you with your play as well as your work.
Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So I have for you a smartphone projector. Woo! Thank you, Laura. Okay, so let me tell you a story, and I'm going to make a point with this. So I talked earlier about my experience with Mahan Khalsa back in 2002, but that wasn't my first WPC. My first WPC was in 1999, when I was very young, very inexperienced, and absolutely overwhelmed by the sheer size of WPC. I could not believe the number of people, the size of the venue, the volume of sessions, the content, everything. I was completely in awe of WPC all those years ago. And I think that actually I drifted a bit that first year. I wasn't clear really on how I was going to make it count, how I was going to actually bring home the bacon from WPC. And I also had a completely unrealistic expectation of what my partner account manager was there to do for me. I thought he was going to set up meetings. I thought he was going to tell me which sessions I should go to. I thought he was going to introduce me to people. Basically, I thought he was going to take responsibility for my whole week. Because, of course, he was just there to run a good week for Julie Simpson, wasn't he? Absolutely not. Ridiculous when I look back. You know, he may have had 30 partners there that week that he was trying to look after, and whilst he could have answered my questions, he was not there at my beck and call. But of course I didn't realise that. So I'm there at WPC, and as a partner, we specialised in public sector. So the whole reason we were there was to drive demand for our solutions and services on public sector. We were looking for partners that were interested to work with us. We were looking to talk to Microsoft people who worked in public sector. That was an absolute focus and strategic goal of the company. So there I am on Malibu Beach, drinking cocktails out of pineapples, loving life. The corporate world doesn't get much better than this. And I'm talking to my colleagues, and I've had one pineapple cocktail, then I think I'll have a cheeky one. And I'm talking to my colleagues about how much my partner account manager has not done for me. And I'm complaining about my partner account manager. He hasn't done this, he hasn't done that, I don't know where I'm supposed to be. What does Microsoft expect us to do? Blah, blah, blah. I'm sure you can imagine it. Suddenly, I look to my left, and this chap stood next to me says, Julie, it is Julie, isn't it? Which partner do you work for? Oh. Like a bolt of lightning, I suddenly think, who on earth is this? I have no idea who this person is. I've been moaning, I've been complaining, I've been knocking back the pineapple cocktails, living it up on the beach, woohoo! Oh, please don't make me tell you that, I said. Who are you anyway? He says. My name's Terry Smith, and I'm the Director of Public Sector for Microsoft in the UK. Woohoo! Absolutely fantastic, absolute true story. I mean, what a catastrophe. Could I have done any worse if I tried? Terry actually, after that unfortunate meeting, continues to be a friend and colleague of mine, part of my network, and has helped me over the years with my business. But something I will never forget. So what are you thinking while I'm telling you that story? She's been round the block a few times. If she's been coming to WPC since 2002, she obviously knows a thing or two. Probably got quite a strong network. What I tried to do there is get you to picture the scene. So we had a scene. We had Malibu Beach. We had a pineapple cocktail, which is my prop. And we have, well, I don't know if he's the villain or the hero. Who is the villain, me, my Pam, or Terry Smith? But we had a moment of impact, a moment of realization, and a story that I have continued to share for many years to come. Now, what was my point? My point was that WPC is one of the best networking opportunities you have this year. But please, while you are here, always be mindful of who might be lurking behind you. So, storytelling. We were taught from a very, very young age. We've all had a number of stories told to us, and we tell stories to each other. It's an unconscious life skill that we do without even thinking about it. When we take our children to bed at night, we don't sit on the end of the bed, pull out a PowerPoint and start reading off bullets. We tell creative stories. There's a villain, there's a hero, there's a journey, there's a moment of drama, there are props. We know things like the glass slipper in Cinderella, Little Red Riding Hood and her red cape. We remember those things. So it is an unconscious life skill that we have learnt. In fact, 64% of our communication, it's said in a recent study, is about telling stories. When someone asks you a question, you'll express yourself and tell them a story. How was your weekend? Oh, it was a lovely day, the sun was out, we went to family in the morning, we went for dinner in the evening to a fantastic restaurant, I had the steak, it was amazing. Unless you're a teenager and you only answer in words of one syllable. Someone asks you a question, you tend to express yourself. And yet, when we come into work, we use facts. Here's another example of a typical story. So, I am a Microsoft Gold partner. I specialise in the engineering and manufacturing sector. I work on application development, so we do Azure application development. This is a story about someone else, by the way, not me. We've got 100 employees in our organisation, and last year we were a WPC award winner. Right, who is going to remember that? So if you meet someone, you say, oh, hi, yeah, what do you do? Oh, we're a Microsoft Gold partner, we do Azure application development. What sectors do you work in? Oh, manufacturing and engineering. How many people have you got? 100. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's just not happening. You're not going to remember that. People are not going to remember that stuff. And the point of storytelling is to get people to listen and to get people to remember, right? How about another way of telling a story about that partner? We have got 100 people in our organisation that deliver transformational services to our customers. In fact, when Rolls-Royce needed to re-engineer their jet engine process, they came to us and we won a project because of our exceptional skill in app dev to help them reduce carbon emissions in their engines and to keep the planes in the air longer. And now whenever any one of us is on an aeroplane, we look out the window, see a Rolls-Royce jet engine and think, did we help build that? That story is absolutely true. And in fact, that partner is an award winner at this conference this year, Black Marble. This is of Black Marble. This is what they do. This is what they tell people, and people remember it. I trust him. He knows what he's talking about. An iconic brand like Rolls-Royce. Absolutely incredible story, and so much more interesting than this. Are you with me? Okay, fantastic. So I guess you know where we're going with this. What is your most amazing win? Okay, this is your chance to have a different conversation. Who is the customer that you've worked with that you are most proud of? The solution that you deliver that somebody would remember that conversation, remember that story. Be creative, be expressive, be proud of what you've done, because this is your unique story. No one else has got this story except you. And whilst I 100% accept that some of us are more creative than others and maybe more confident than others at expressing themselves, every single person in this room has an experience, has something unique about them that belongs to no one else. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for me, I promise, okay? So, before we stand, what you're going to do, turn to the person next to you for 2 minutes. I will sound the horn, then we're going to swap over for 2 minutes. What we want to talk about is what is your most amazing win. Get these partners to remember you, okay? Let's give it a go. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. if you haven't already. 2 minutes on the other way. Thank you. Time up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? Now we're thinking a bit more differently about how we are remembered, about how we express ourselves while we network at WPC, how we get people to remember us, and how we reflect on our businesses as we express our skill, as we express how we are expert, how we are unique, how we do what we do, and how we make a difference. As before, I'm looking for a volunteer to share someone else's expertise, and I have another prize. Who would like to share? Come on. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
I had the pleasure to hear about Sanjay from Microsoft telling about how they actually managed to build a huge Azure solution 3 years ago. That was pretty early with Azure in Mexico. Building a solution where it was possible to hope it's right. through credit card transactions, actually see how much people had to pay in tax.
Wow.
Because there was quite a lot of corruption at that time.
Wow.
Well, still probably is.
It probably is. Fantastic.
That was the
real application of the technology at work.
Sorry?
A real application of the technology at work.
Yeah, it was handled so that the information went to Azure and was handled that way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Credit card fraud. Work while you play. We're getting some stories going now. Thank you very much for doing that. No one wants to volunteer, do they? Thank you very much. So, you've got your most amazing win. Now, you're at WPC. You're thinking, how am I expert? How can I tell my unique story? How can I make someone listen to me? How can I make someone remember me? How can I talk about my most superb project? And while I'm networking, I need to remember who I might bump into and who might be listening, as in my faux pas about Terry Smith. So how are we going to pull all of this together? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have a tool for you to use to be able to do this. And it's at this point you might want to make a couple of notes if you haven't already. This is the bit where I give you the methodology. This is the bit where we bring all of this together, everything we've been talking about. So I've been telling you stories. I've been telling you stories about Richard Branson. I've been telling you stories about Mahan Khalsa. I've been telling you my story about Terry Smith. So are you ready for this? This is the big moment. Drum roll, please. Stunned silence. There you go, that's it. Fantastic. That was exactly the reaction I was looking for. Sell them an outcome so they remember you. What is this woman on? Let me break that down for you. Let's take the first letters of some of these words. Sell. So when you are telling a story, what is the point that you are trying to make? What's the reason for telling the story? What's the conclusion you want to land? The nugget of information you want that person to listen to as you tell your story? What is the point of it? Because what we don't want is us all being fantastic storytellers and the stories are so irrelevant to the conversation. Yes, he was a very nice chap. It was funny. We had a bit of a laugh. But I don't actually remember what on earth was the point of the story he was telling me. So focus that first. What is the point? The second part, who is the person? What does he care about? What's going to light that person up? This is where the Mahan Khalsa technique of quietening your internal voice, asking questions of the person that you are talking to and listening to their answers will enable you to understand what this person cares about, what keeps them awake at night. How am I going to understand what is going to light this person up? So what is the point you are trying to make? Who is the individual that you are talking to? What do they care about? The third point, the outcome. What do you want that person to say, think, or do? What is it that you are looking for? If it's in a sales situation, maybe you're looking for a purchase order. If it's in another level of a sales situation, maybe what you're looking for is you're not talking to the budget holder and you need the person that you're talking to give you access to the person that you actually need to speak to. What's the outcome that you're looking to drive? If you did an exit poll from that conversation, what's that man or woman going to say? What's the outcome that you are looking to drive? So what's the point you are trying to make? Who is the person you're talking to? What is the outcome you're trying to drive? And then, how are you going to make it memorable? What can you say that is actually going to land in that person's mind so that when they talk about you, that they have met you and they introduce you to someone else, that they will remember you and what you said? Out of all these 16,000 people, this is the way that you are going to break through and be remembered. And finally, how are you going to do it? What is going to work for you? We've all got experiences, but they need to be our own experiences, our own anecdotes, our own stories. You will have probably noticed how much more passionate I get as a presenter when I'm talking about a real story. I feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more like I can express myself because it's a real experience that happened to me. I couldn't tell that story about Malibu Beach and Terry Smith in the way I did unless it was actually me. So how are you going to deliver the story well? So now, when I show you this phrase, sell them an outcome so they remember you. S-T-O-R-Y, story. This is the tool that will help you as you think about the stories you tell about your business throughout WPC, in your meetings, in your presentations, on the phone. What is the point you're trying to make? Who is the person I'm talking to? What is the outcome I'm trying to drive? How can I make this memorable? And how am I comfortable to do this? What is going to work for you? S-T-O-R-Y. That's a methodology that we have come up with, training 1,500 Microsoft people all over the world on how to do great storytelling. This is the methodology that we share. This is the content that I'm expressing for you. I want to give you a couple of case studies of this in action as we round up the last 10 or 15 minutes of this conversation today. So here's an example of how this brought home the bacon. So you've got a Microsoft corporate readiness manager who comes into a role with very limited budget. Your job is to make our people better, to train them better, to make better decisions about what in training we invest in and how they apply it. Well, what's my budget? not very much. So she looks at it and she thinks, how can I increase this? How can I get the message home that well-trained people achieve amazing things? If my guys that I'm responsible for are going to make their sales count, are going to be ready for every customer situation, I need money to train them. I can't do that without budget. Normally, she would go into a leadership session, she would put forward her plan, and it would be talked about, and yeah, we'll come back to you in a couple of months' time, and then it probably comes back at a fifth of what she'd actually asked for. What she was actually asking for was an additional $500,000 of budget. Even for Microsoft, for one person to ask, that was a huge ask. And she went into a senior leadership meeting to request that budget. True story. So she's thinking, how can I get this message across? She came up with something that was personal to her. Her father was Owen Langsmith, who was on the original Apollo 11 team that landed Neil Armstrong on the moon. True story. This is her father's achievement award. Jodie is sat on her father's lap here in 1967. She went in with a story that says, well-trained people achieve amazing things. I want to talk about the astronaut mentality. I want to talk about how astronauts train over and over and over again to prepare for every and all eventualities. And that makes them successful. And I want my team to have an astronaut mentality. And I need budget to be able to do that. She brought home the bacon. She got her $500,000. A fantastic application. A story that was personal to her. She went through the workshop with us, came up with the process, thought about the point she was trying to make. How can I do this? How can I make it about myself? The astronaut mentality. I've got one more example for you. This lady, Taryn Merriman, is the retail manager for Staples and Ryman's. So she was having a huge problem with Ryman's, trying to get to convince them that they should be spending more money on advertising the Microsoft products and solutions that they were selling in their stores. But Ryman's, you know, they do stationery and that's what they do, and we're not really into all that. But we will have a bit of it on our shelves, but we're not really selling it. And we're certainly not advertising it to our customers. So she told the story. I went to the retail park to buy equipment for my kids before they went back to school on Monday. I went into Ryman's, like all the other parents, and I bought paper, and I bought erasers, and I bought pencil sharpeners, and I bought pens. And I came out of there, and I went into Staples. And in Staples, I bought software. I bought devices, as did all the other parents. And then I went into my customer with a bag of the stuff I bought in Ryman's and a bag of the stuff that I bought in Staples. Here's the difference in the value, the shopping basket value, because I know Staples sell this stuff. And she went into the meeting with the prop, the carrier bags, with the stuff, and went in there to prove her point that if they invested their budget in advertising their Microsoft devices, their Microsoft software, then their prices from each customer would increase. And of course, they changed their focus and made their Microsoft products more visible in their stores. Genuine stories about how you can tell stories that bring home the bacon. Make a point, make it count. So our conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, and then I will take a couple of other things. I've got one more prize to give away that you'll be glad to know doesn't involve you all standing up and talking. Great sense of relief from everybody. How do you think I feel? I've got to stand up here for 50 minutes. So the conclusion that we have, I ask you to maintain the focus throughout WPC as you're talking to partners, as you're talking to Microsoft people. Stay clear. How are you experts? How are people going to remember you? How are they going to talk about you to someone else? How can you get that to land in their mind? You want someone to do, say, or think something as a result of the conversation you're having. Be absolutely clear on that. And sell them an outcome so they remember you. STORY. Think about your audience, stay clear on your outcome, make it memorable, and stay on that path. How are you experts? What's your big win? The thing you are most proud of as a Microsoft partner, the thing that makes you unique and different from all your competitors. And great storytellers, that's what they do. That's what they do on their websites. That's what they do in their marketing materials. That's what their salespeople do. That's what's in their presentations. They're incredible stories that inspire their customers, that make their customers remember them and make their customers buy. You never know who might be lurking around at WPC. I have lost count at the number of times that I've met extremely important people to my business in a lift, in a bar, in a restaurant, and you don't always know who it is. So do keep that front of mind, especially first-time attendees. You never know who you're talking to. There's no question in my mind, and from training 1,500 Microsoft people everywhere from Moscow to the USA, all across Europe and Singapore, the one thing that will make a difference and will make unique, stories make people listen and remember. They will give you the competitive edge, and they will enable you to bring home the bacon. So, in my incredible appreciation for the time that you have given me today, I've got a little gift for you as you promise to fill out your evaluation from today's session. And before you all start to leave, I've got one more prize to give away. Now, let me just help you a little bit. With evaluations, Microsoft measures ones. That was absolutely terrible, and I wish I'd gone and done anything other than attend that session. Or fives. I actually learned something. I took something from that session. So I ask you to fill out your evaluation. It takes 1 minute. And everybody that does it, Microsoft donates. They donate $1 for completing a session evaluation and $5 for completing a WPC evaluation to Microsoft's charity Right to Play. One more question to all the ladies in the room. Have you registered for the Women in Technology lunch on Wednesday? Hey! Can't wait to see you there and appreciate you doing that. So I said I had one more prize. I've got a thank you very much as you leave, the latest copy of our Microsoft Abbreviation Dictionary. I don't know if you've seen it. So I've been writing that since 1998. When I went to meetings with Microsoft, I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about. So it's a little A6 Microsoft Abbreviation Dictionary. It's a thank you from me for your time. It's a thank you and a little bribe for filling out your evaluation. So you will be handed those as you leave if you promise to complete the eval. One more question, so for the prize. I gave a statistic about how much of our time... 64, there you go. 64%. Has anyone got any questions? Stunned silence.
Do you have another question?
This gentleman's got a question. Yes, sir. Do you want to come to the mic?
So I know that you had said that we shouldn't be so fact-driven with our presentations when we're telling the story. A lot of us come in, we've got a lot of detail, a lot of content that we want to provide to our customers. How do you balance the story that you're trying to provide with the content and the information that we're trying to convey that we think is compelling for them to know?
What a fantastic question. So everybody heard that. How do you make a decision when you've got an amazing amount of information to convey to a customer? How do you actually transfer that? So I can tell you how I do that. It goes back to what Mahan Khalsa taught me. Is the first thing I'm doing is asking questions before I give any information across. And then that means that the information I'm giving is entirely relevant to that individual. I could talk to you for the next 3 weeks without stopping about my business. But if I was going to talk to you about my business, the first question that I ask you would be, what does your company do? What's your role in the company? What do you think your challenges are about business development and marketing? What kind of customers do you work with? And then I would tell you relevant information about partners I've worked with that are like you. Does that answer your question? Great. Anybody else? You got no questions? You have? I know you have. You just don't want to ask them. Okay? Please fill out your evaluation. Thank you so much for attending this session. Thank you. Thank you very much.